Hi, this is Everett, Everett's Watercolors. Welcome to my classroom. Today I'm broadcasting live from Chesapeake, Virginia, and I'm broadcasting to the U.S. and around the world. So welcome to you and welcome aboard. And got some interesting things to talk about today. I'm in the studio today with my wife, Gloria.
Hello, everyone.
And she'll be monitoring the broadcast along with the chat room. Let me turn the chat room on now. And I'd like to hear from you. Tell me where you're from, and also, during the broadcast, you can write me a question or a comment, and I'll try to answer that and get right back to you as soon as I can. Today, I'm going to introduce a couple new items I have, and I love to do plein air. Last weekend, I was out for plein air, playing outdoors. This is the kind of weather right now that's beautiful, and I'm really enjoying myself. And I've got a couple new watercolor pads that I have, and I'm going to show those to you today. I'm going to show you some of the things I did last week using those pads. And they're on my website, and also I'm going to talk about some new things coming down the road. So let me go over my painting table, and let me get started on that conversation. So here I go to my painting table. Okay, I'm really excited about this. I have two plein air or travel manuals, and the first one is called the Visual Journal. This is the Strathmore manual pad. It measures 5 by 8. I wanted it small because I wanted it portable. So it's a 5 by 8, and it's also for mixed media. You can see here, it's a Visual Journal by Strathmore, but it's a mixed media. It's 100% cotton, archival. It's also 5 by 8 size, I've already mentioned. And you can also use the other media on here. I've used the color pencils, and I'll show you in a moment some things I've done. And it measures 5 by 8, which is a nice size to put even in your pocket or in a small bag. And we'll talk about that later. The other small painting pad I have is a Strathmore Watercolor Pad. And this is all for watercolor. This is 140 pounds. Oh, I mentioned the Visual Journal. It's 90-pound paper. 90-pound paper, which is okay. Watercolor goes on it, but also other media like color pencils and crayons and even pastels. But the watercolor paper here is good for watercolor, and it comes 5 by 8 size. Again, it's another convenient size to have as a portable outdoor travel and for plein air. So those are the two manuals I'm going to talk about today. And also I'll be talking about my 10 by 7 manual, which I'll show you a couple examples. Okay, so the first one here I want to show you is I was out during the plein air last weekend, and I was out at one of my favorite sites here. This is a Marine Corps League building here, right across the waterway, and I took my painting pad with me, and I did a quick what I call a color study. Okay, and what it looked like on site, it looked something like this. Okay, that's what I did on site. Then I brought it back to the studio and I added some more color to it. But better than that, I have a very short film. It's like a minute long, but I've got some samples of what I did on location last weekend. So let me play that first, then we'll come back and talk about the pads. Okay, this first one here is about the 5 by 8 Visual Journal. You've already seen the outside cover. And here I am at the Marine Corps League. That's the building I was looking at. And first of all, I did a sketch with a pencil. And now here I'm doing with the water pen. I had a sketch and wash pencil, and I'm actually just putting water over that. And here, and also with my watercolor brush and my watercolor set, I painted in watercolor. So that's one sketch I did last weekend using the Strathmore. Now here's another one. Here's my 140-pound 5 by 8 pad. And I had done a sketch before on the Meadow Land, and that's the sketch I did on location. the tall grass. And then here's another view back at the Marine Corps League when I did a quick sketch of the American flag on that 5x8 pad. Then in my field sketchbook, I had that with me also, and 5x7. It has some watercolor paper, has watercolor paper in it, and I really like this little boat there, little blue boat. And I did a quick plein air painting of that. Let me take you back to the studio. All right, so those are some things I did on location last weekend, just with these pads. And again, I was probably this one here probably took me 35 minutes to do this one, and I brought it back to the studio. Now, what I did here was I took my colored pencils and I actually added some color in here to the trees, and also this little tree over here. So that's what on-site, on-location sketch on location. Using this pad. Now another one I did. Here I was playing around with different colors. Here I'm using little pastels and so forth on the back of this particular painting here. And I found a picture of another item. Let's see. Let me get this one here. Get these in order. This is an actual boat right where I was sitting with the same after I'd done the building, and I saw this boat was pulled up here, ready to go under the bridge as soon as they opened it up. So this boat was waiting. So I just took a quick snapshot of it with my camera, and I did a quick little sketch here of just the outline of the boat because I knew it was going to leave very quickly. Then I brought it back to the studio. And I finished that sketch up here in the studio. And what I did was I added some color in the background, and then what I did here was I added the pen and ink to show the railing on the actual boat. Okay, and I added a little bit of shadow under the boat itself and so forth. So again, I did this partially on location. I brought it back to the studio and then added some more detail to it. After I looked at the reference photograph, and then from the actual sketch, then I went ahead and finished it off. So that's what I do. I usually take a photograph of what I'm painting, then I come back and add more detail to it. This is a picture of the meadow. Get this back here. This is a picture of the meadow I had, and that's the one I showed in the watercolor book. This one here. This was the Meadow Land this is the photograph, and this is the actual. And I did this one in colored pencil. So on this watercolor paper, I used colored pencil here, color pencil, and I add a little bit of. Actually, I use a little bit of pastel on top of those. On top of those. We call them weeds or grass. I add a little bit of pastel and I put watercolor on top of that. So I used a little bit of mixed media on this particular one here, on this watercolor paper. Okay, but again, it turned out pretty nice. Again, it was just a color study of another location. And then, oh yeah, this is a close up of the flag, which I've shown you already. When I turned around and looked at the building, I saw the flag flying in the breeze up here. So I said, well, I'm going to capture that and do a quick sketch. So that's when I did the sketch here on the watercolor pad, and I showed you this one. I'll show it to you again. Now on this is what I did on location. I did the sketch here on location of this on the plain pad. And when I came back to the studio, I added a simple background. I added the green, a little bit of green-blue background, and I darkened up the rooftops on the building. So I came back and did this in the studio, this portion here. But I captured the shape and the item and the subject on location on the small sketch pad. Okay. Then the next one I did, this is all basically on the same day. Uh, this is a picture of that boat I saw. It was parked across the waterway where I was staying. I was sitting up here on one side, and on the other side of the waterway was this boat that was moored uh, next to the Marine Corps building over here. It had a nice, interesting shape to it, and it was a good size. So I decided I'd go ahead and paint that. So what I did here was in my sketchbook. There's the one I showed also in the video. This is, and I didn't change it. I think the way it turned out, I did this painting on location, and I captured the essence. I think of myself. I'm really happy with the essence of that, the picture, and the painting itself. So I didn't touch this at all when I came back to the studio. I really liked the way it turned out. So this was a keeper as far as a reference. I would say a practice painting, or I captured the shape, the size, and the colors there on location. And I think getting the colors right and the shape and so forth is very important when you're on location. But all those brushstrokes there were done on site in this particular manual. Okay, so this is a 10 by 6 watercolor pad. Put that aside. Now, what I did the other day was yesterday I was out on business, and I was parked in a parking lot. And every time I go, I always take a sketch pad with me. Sketch pad, or you can take a small watercolor pad, or you can take the journal with. You can take the journal. I can take the journal with me and do a quick sketch on that. Get the cover on that. So both of these are very usable. And what I did here was I took the journal. I had my journal with me, and I went ahead and I did a quick sketch. And you can't see it. It's a very light sketch. I just did a quick sketch on the journal, but I took a photograph of it. So what's important is I took a photograph of the reference of this particular area. Now, my inspiration here, or my real intent here, was to capture this tree line. Now, what I'm looking at here is I see actually I see three layers of trees. I see a background layer. I see a middle ground layer here. Then I see a foreground layer. There's a bush here on the right hand side, and this tall tree on the left, which is the foreground. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this particular sketch, and I'm going to use probably watercolor, or I can use color pencils, combination of the two, and I can go ahead and paint that in just to capture that in. And I can get started on that right now. What I like to do is just take, and what I'm going to do is really practice what colors I'm going to use. And just as a start, last week I was painting with the green and the yellow. I want to put a little bit of, and I'll mix my greens up again. Because I like to start with a basic palette. I don't like to have too much detail when I go out and paint. So the background trees, I want to have that bluish color. And I'm going to leave the sky alone right now. I'm just really concentrating on those three levels of trees. So I can go in there now. I didn't have my paintbrush with me. This is a Holbein. I'm using a Holbein half-inch flat brush, and I'll go into. I'm planning on coming back next week with some more ideas on outdoor painting, and I'll be talking a little bit more about supplies and what I use and so forth. But right now, I'm just trying to show you these travel pads that I have that are very convenient for size and everything. And this little background over here continues on behind this tree. So what I'm doing now is this is a study. This is a color study, and what I'm doing is I'm really looking at the colors I would use in an actual painting. And what I want to do is capture the depth and difference of the different layers of these trees. So this first layer I'm putting in the a little light, little blue yellow mix to give me a a light color. So I'll start with a light value. I can always add to it later on if I change my mind. But I start out with a light value. It's more blue. It's got more blue than green in it. It's a bluish green is what that is. Now the next one coming forward, this one here, I'm going to put a little more yellow in it. Going back to the reference photograph. Let me see. I have it right here. Just referring to the reference photograph. This one here has got a little bit more yellow in it. You can see it's got a yellow because the sun is shining on it. It's got a little more yellow color in this one here. Okay, so I'm going to add a little more yellow to my mix just by putting a little more yellow in the same puddle I used with the last one, but just add a little yellow to it. And then I go in there now and paint in this next layer of trees. And when I do an actual painting, I'll vary the colors and so forth. But right now, I just want to get the actual, what I call the mother color, and that's the base color. If you hear me talk about the mother color, if you hear about mother color from other artists, it's really, they're talking about the main color of that particular area. Now, this mother color in this painting would be green, but this particular area, I'm talking about a yellow green. And using the photograph as a reference, that's a good place to start. I can always add to this if I want to change my mind later in this sketch or in a later painting. Okay, but what the most important now is that I've separated the background tree with this middle ground tree. That's the most important thing, separation. And I separate it by a little bit of value change, but also a color change. Right now, it's really a color change. Now, this forward tree here, now this side tree here is not important. So what I'm going to do with that one is I'm going to take the blue-green, and I'm going to put in a complementary color to that, which would be a little bit of red. A little touch of red. And I'm going to put that in there. And what that does, that's going to modify, it's going to neutralize that particular subject over there. I'm going to neutralize it. I add a little bit, by adding the red to the green. I'm getting a little bit of mixing today. By adding the red to the green, I've made a gray, and that gray has got it's toned down. It's got a little reddish cast to it, which is okay. It's not the actual color of the tree, but I'm making the color different so that it will be visible to the viewer that it's a different location. And again, I may add to this later on, but right now I just want to separate these layers. Right now I'm doing it by color. So I'm muting this particular one down. I add a little bit of red to that green-blue mix. And now I'm just concentrating on the shape and getting that in there. Okay. Now there is one little bush over here, and it has a little more red in it. So what I'm going to use, I have a alizarin crimson here in my palette, which I used last week. So alizarin crimson, and what I'll do is I'll put a little bit of red on this one, just a touch of red. Just a little bit. Then I'm going to pick up some of that color I just mixed, the red with the green, and kind of put that in there. So I'm going to kind of make this a little bit of a combination of those two colors. And that what may happen here is when I develop this painting into, say, something finished, this might become my impact area. This, and I might do something in the background, something like that. And then for the background, I'm going to put a gray. I've got Payne's gray here on my palette. I can mix that in and put a little bit of dull gray back here in the background, kind of in the shadow. Make that a shadow color underneath these trees. So I took a shortcut here. I just use Payne's gray to make a gray. I can usually mix anything to make a gray if I wanted to. So I'll put that there in the background, underneath the trees as a shadow. And the last thing I'll do, I'll take this is a round brush. This is a number 8 round brush from Holbein. And I can pick up a little bit of that, little bit of burnt sienna or a little bit of yellow ochre here. And I can put in the tree trunk. So I'll put a little bit of tree trunk in here on this particular tree. And there's some branches up here in this opening here. So as simply as I did here, and I can just take a little color here, I can take some of that blue and I kind of put it here in the foreground, make it lighter. Okay, and this section over here, I can go ahead and finish up. Take a little bit of that blue, mix it in with some other color, a little bit of red, a little bit of brown. Take some of that gray. Okay, so by looking at the subject, I found something interesting to paint. And what I was trying to do here was separate the trees into colors in the background, and the middle ground would be this light green, greenish or bluish. It's really yellow blue mix. And then I put the opposite over here. I added a little bit of red to that green mix to give me a dull color here in the middle and the foreground. And then I added a little bit of red, little listen crimson down here on this particular forward bush. And so that was just a simple demonstration of if I saw something that I really want to capture. Okay, I took a quick picture, but if I have my my journal with me or my watercolor pad, then I could do a quick sketch of what I saw, and I can play around with the colors that I see. Now in plein air, normally you paint what you see. Now you'd paint the same colors you saw there, and you come back to the studio, and then you can use that as a reference, and you can then repaint it any other color you want. So I was going to do this for something else, but I decided I'd show that today as a quick demonstration of using the visual journal to capture a scene which I just saw. This is brand new yesterday. And I was going to play with that, and I said, well, I can do that for today's demonstration, just a quickie. Okay, so that's one example of how I would use the journal as a travel pad, and all we need is some pencils, color pencils. I can use chalk, I can use pen and ink, or I can use a paintbrush. We'll go into all the other kind of supplies. I think I'll go into that later on the next broadcast. I think I'll talk about other supplies. I want to talk about a palette and do some other things. So in the future, I'm going to be adding different items to this. What I'm talking about is developing a travel kit, which is portable, very easy to carry, but will have all the elements you need to do an outdoor study, do an outdoor sketch, and put some color on it. And this I'm going to call it the watercolor travel kit. It'll have brushes and paints and a water supply. It'll have pads and pencils like I'm showing right here, especially the visual journal, which I really like. It's got this contains 30 pages, but you can paint on both sides. So if you paint on one side, one thing, you can turn it over and paint something else on it. So you really got 30 pages, but you got 60. Actually, you got 30 sheets, but you got actually 60 pages of painting space. This one here contains 12 sheets, but it's watercolor paper. And of course, you could also paint on the back of these also. I did here. I painted on one side. I did this scene here of the Meadow Land. And then on the back side, I did the flag, Old Glory. So you can use both sides of the watercolor paper. So for 12 sheets, that's 24 pieces of paper for watercolor, 140 pound. This is archival, 140 pound, cold pressed paper, which is the same kind of paper I use in my studio. Yeah, I use Gemini, but Strathmore, this watercolor pad is very good. I use also in plein air. So I'm going to be back next week. I'm going to be talking about more, along with these pads, I'm going to be talking more about a palette. I'm going to be talking about a color set. That's a limited color set, but I'll go through that and show you some how to make mixtures for that. And I'll talk about how we're going to organize that. So I think next week we're going to have some more fun with the travel kit. So if you have questions about this, you can go to my website. I have the two manuals right now. I have these two manuals right now on my website. You can find those at everettswatercolors.com, www.everettswatercolors.com. They're both there, located there right now. But I'm going to be organize these into a travel kit along with brushes and paints and a palette. And so you want to wait for that when I bring that up. And when I get that available, it'll come out soon. When I get it available, I'll present that on air also live. So let me take you back to the main camera. Okay, I was really excited about the new manuals I got in this past week, and I had a chance to use them on my Plein Air trip this last weekend, and I showed that to you on my video. And in that length of time, I guess I was out Plein Air maybe an hour and a half, but I did five quick sketches, and that small painting. I did five watercolor sketches in that length of time. Using all three of those pads I showed. I showed the two portable pads and the 10x7 pad, which is also portable. So I'm really excited about those, and I'm really excited. I'll get back to you in the future. Next week I'll probably show you the palette and maybe some paints and what kind of mixtures I use with that. Show you the kind I recommend for at least a starter kit for travel, and show you how we can use that. So I'm looking forward to next week, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and also give me some likes and some thumbs up on my YouTube channel. And I'll be rebroadcasting this later on LinkedIn, so they'll be getting the same information. So
Facebook.
I'm sorry, I heard a noise.
Yes, Facebook.
Oh, Facebook. Yeah, I mentioned Facebook. It'll be on Facebook also. You'll see live, but I'm also going to rebroadcast it on Facebook. It'll be live on. I'll rebroadcast it on my YouTube, my YouTube channel, and then it'll also be on LinkedIn. Okay, so appreciate y'all looking in today, and if you had questions about those manuals or in the future anything about them, let me know. And I hope you enjoyed today's broadcast, and if you do, give me a like, and also subscribe to my YouTube channel. So I'll be back again next week on Thursday at 2:00 p.m. Have a safe week, and I'll see you next